Hi there, in this video today I will show you how to put together the 3D response boat, which is an SVG file from Simply Crafty SVGs. So this is just one of the parts. I call it the boat edges. I know there's a technical term for them, but I'm just showing you I did the left side already. So you can see these are the three parts we're going to do as well as the front part. So that's what it looks like on one side of the boat. So we have a little bit more pieces than we need, and I'll explain in a minute. So we're going to put these aside. These are for the other side. And it goes in this order, which is the shortest in the middle, the longest at the back, and then the next in the front. So we'll put those aside and we'll start with the front piece, which is right here to the right there. So here you'll see I wrote B, but in the final file you'll see a cutout B, which is similar to this. It's slightly different, but basically it'll have a cutout. And that means the back, or the bottom I should say. We don't care it's cut out because it'll be glued to the actual base of the boat. So right now you can see we're just folding on all those score lines. We just want to do that carefully as we can. So if you're using something like a Cricut Maker or with the score tool or wheel, you might have to score it a little bit more. My score lines are lightly cut with the Eclipse. And you see there's a lot of little tabs on this piece. So in my opinion, this whole boat edge, the red edge, or blue, whatever, because this boat could be used for maybe a Coast Guard boat or a police response boat. That's what they're, the type of boat I looked up that this called. So we'll just go ahead and you can see we're going to start with the front. So make sure the B is in the back and you're not gluing that side on. So like again, this is probably the hardest part of the This project requires some patience. I wouldn't call it a beginner project, more of intermediate. But if you just follow the instructions here, you should be able to get through. So you can see how I'm gluing the tabs. So I did that side and just kind of folded it over and applied more pressure. The biggest thing when it comes to these intricate pieces, and we're just going to line up this edge here. Hold on. The biggest thing that you have to worry about is just getting them glued on and just being patient with yourself, because this is not a short project. This is something you want to set aside a few hours, and especially if you want to add a special touch to it. Somebody advanced probably could do it much quicker. And I always have a wet paper towel handy, and I'll start with that because you really don't want glue along the edges here, so be careful with your glue. Make sure you don't get too close to those tab folds. And if you do, just have a little wet paper towel handy, a real small one, to just wipe away the extras, or to wipe it with your fingers and wipe off your hands, because you don't want glue on your hands. So that's the top. Now if you got glue on the bottom, obviously that wouldn't make a difference, but let's try to be consistent. You see these, we're going to be missing a tab in the front, and it was not necessary, so we're only going to have these side tabs that you see. I know part of it's hard to see. I tried to zoom in a little bit here. And then these tabs. So you want to add as much glue as possible to these little teeny tabs. It's kind of shaped in the back, so we're just kind of shaping it around. And you could do both sides at once, or you could actually do that last. I'm just showing you how it goes. So you could do the front tabs first and then the back, or do the back like this and the front. Because if your hands get in the wrong place, I'm just letting you know, because this does happen to me, because I kind of have stubby fingers. I tend to pull things apart again. So if you can see in the video here, I pulled off the other side already by putting glue on that side. So if you put glue on both sides at once, and I promise, I believe the side ones are easier. In order to get this look, I had to go pretty small, so that's why the boat is so large, because I wanted a specific look. So what I'm doing is just applying pressure to the tabs inside. This is the reason why I did the back first, so I could get my fingers in there to apply pressure. And then I'm going to go fix the other side that just came apart. So you can see it's coming together, and then we're just going to glue those little front side flaps. Again, the same thing can happen, so you want to do your best to get in there. So this, like I said, this believe in my opinion, based on everything I did in this project, that this is one of the hardest pieces to glue together. So I say let's get the hardest out first. So that's why I'm doing the edges first. Get them all prepped so we can go on to easier pieces. So I just wiping my fingers off because I did have excess glue. So if you do that, just make sure they're pushed in. And then you're going to kind of gently feel in to match up that tab edge, the tab fold to the edge there. Same thing here. Being careful not to pull the other side apart. Again, I'm guilty of that, so I'm just making sure, and there I did, I just pulled it apart again. So I would normally not show you this or edit the video, but I wanted to let you know that this is something that can happen very easily. So if you can get through this part, even if you have to cut a second one, but hopefully you don't have to. So I'm just going to do it one more time. Consider it my bloopers. I tried to make this part a little bit easier to assemble, but this is the easiest I was able to get with the look I wanted. So just holding it a little bit longer than I did the first time. You probably won't see many bloopers for the rest of it. I did have a couple mistakes. So what people don't, well, you might know if you watch other videos, but I will admit I do record this with, I just do voiceovers. So I'm watching the video after I did it. But the reason I do that is because I can't concentrate very well, talk and do it at the same time. I'm not one of those fancy YouTubers that can just do everything right, because I tend to miss steps if I'm talking. And I even miss steps when I'm not talking. So this video is kind of a little choppy because there's a couple things I realized along the way. I didn't want to redo the whole thing. I got to a point where I did almost over half the project, and I made a couple mistakes. So you'll see. I'll mention those as we go. Or I fine-tuned the file after I did it, because I thought it looked good the first time I did it, but when I did it for the assembly video, I had some issues. So you can see I'm just adding glue to these tabs and then gently folding it down. So you don't want to put much pressure because it's hollow. So we're just kind of getting it lined up and rubbing on the sides. So you can see if I have a cutout B at the bottom, it's not a big deal because we're going to glue that to the actual boat base. And then just gently, once you get it in place, gently rub it against the table. And then I'm just kind of showing you how it's almost like a little puzzle. I kind of know the pieces, but I just have to get them in place. So it's the longest is towards the back, shortest in the middle, and then the next size in the front. So this is how we're just going to put together this other pieces on the side. So you can see I'm just scoring. So wherever there's a tab on the side, there's going to be a score line. So you just kind of want to gently do that, and you can see I'm kind of finding where the score lines are to fold on. And that's what that one looks like. And then make sure also that you fold those side tabs down, whether you do it before or after. Sometimes I do it a little bit before, but then I have to pull them out to do the lengthwise. So we're just going through these a little bit faster than the others, just so you see how they fold and how the tabs fold. Sometimes it's hard to find the score line. This is the reason why the Cricut people I have out there, The score tool, in my opinion, still doesn't score, or even the score tool or the score wheel doesn't score well enough for some of these 3D projects. So that's why I include a solid score line and a dashed line that you can cut for your pieces, because sometimes it's required. I do prefer the solid, and you could actually have it run over the machine twice with your score tool or score wheel to get it deeper. But it gets difficult when you get to these type of projects where it has to have a good defined score. And no, I didn't cut this on the Maker. I cut this on the Eclipse, which does kind of a little kiss cut score line. So it cuts the line, which is my preference. But it's not like it cuts all the way through. It's a partial cut, so it'll just fold well. I wish we could add that to the Maker. It's my wish list. We're kind of getting towards vinyl, more vinyl focus these days. So anyways, whatever machine you're using, and it could be not a Cricut, not a Silhouette, not an Eclipse. So it could be Scan and Cut or something else, Pazzles. So we're going to go ahead and take one of these and add glue to the tab. And we're going to match up that inner that edge, other opposite edge, to the inner tab fold. You want to make sure it's lined up, so you can see it's lined up, and that left part of that tab is also lined up to the edge there, the edge of the tab fold, down the corner where the tab folds. And that's nice that you can kind of flatten it a little bit right at that to give additional pressure. And then we'll just push these things in, and we don't care that they're overlapping. I actually wanted more space to be able to glue these edges to. So you're just going to add a liberal amount of glue without having leak too much out. And you're just going to move it around until you can get it in place. So it might take a little manipulation, kind of squeezing it gently until kind of the shape is right and matches the side piece. And then once you just kind of rub it to get it where it is, and once you have it in place, the nice part is on one side you can actually put a tool like a wooden chopstick that I use a lot and apply additional pressure from the other side. When you get to the other side, you'll have to just use your fingers and a little bit of force against the table like this. Now we'll glue the other side. So that is an angled end. Just going to add, like I said, a liberal amount of glue. Just making sure it's not leaking around the edges. And again, you can just have your wet paper towel ready, because you don't want to get any glue on the outside. The only place safely to get it really is where the tab is, because that will be glued to the boat base. So you can see I'm just kind of rubbing the excess off, being careful not to get it on the outside. And then once I get enough pressure, I feel like the tab's on there with rubbing it. And you want to hold it a little longer. Just go ahead and apply pressure against the table lightly. You just don't want to push it too much, else it might collapse on you. So we're going to do the same thing with the other two. As they get longer, what helped for me is to line up one side of the tab first. And we're going to go a little faster here. So we're lining it up to where the tab fold starts and making sure that that inside edge is lined up to the inside of that tab fold edge. Then I just kind of lightly get it in place on both sides first to line it up, and then use a tool like this. It could be like a any round utensil will work, but it's cheap to get those wooden Chinese sticks at restaurants. I just save them. Why not? They're cheap. You don't have to go buy extra things, but sometimes I just pick up any round tool I have a stylus that works as well. So I just kind of folded it to apply more pressure and getting a little glue off my fingertips. That's what I was doing. Because every once in a while on a project like this, I have to just stop and go and wash my hands because I get so much little bits of glue all over my fingertips from these projects. And then I don't want to get it on the actual project. And it gets on the mat and everything else too. So it's the same process. Not much different at all. But I wanted to show you all three of them. This is the longest one, so we'll get it in place on one side again. So the left and right tabs, they should line up with the tab folds on the left and right side. And then of course that other edge, the other end of that should be aligned with the inside tab fold. So then I'm just going to apply, that's where that tool comes in really handy. And then we'll just fold it over right there just to give it more force to fold it. And I had a little bit of a glue there. And so we'll just skip the putting the ends, but you do the same thing as you did with the other two. But just go ahead and glue them shut. Now we're going to go to the cabin. So right now I had already put on the panels, and you can see all the panels, those are optional. And there's also optional vellum panels for the windows. But we want to go ahead and fold all those pieces on the score lines. But you can put those vellum windows in beforehand if you want to make it like a tea light holder. That's an option, or you just don't want to see it and you want to do something decorative. But if you put something inside, you might want to show the actual gift. So now that once you have all the panels on, we'll just go ahead and start gluing it together. So we're going to glue this side tab and glue the other side window. So you want to line it up to the section. So you want that edge to match that tab fold and line up on with the right tab fold. You see that tab fold at the top, so it lines up. And before we put the rest together, we're going to put together these front windows. So that's the hardest part because there's some shape to it. So that those two will go like that and attach there. So we're going to glue those two first together, and then we'll attach it to the larger cabin piece. Make sure you fold everything on the score lines first. That's upside down piece. So I did show you it upside down. In the next shot, I will show you them upside right. I just didn't have it the right way. So it'll fold right there and glue right there. So here we go. Those two pieces again. So we're going to glue those together. So just make sure those rounded flaps are at the top and the way it's situated. So the right one goes in to the angles inward, and the left one angles inward as well. So we're going to glue that middle long tab first. So line it up so that that fold above the windows is matched up. So we're doing the biggest one to anchor it to make sure that it stays in place. So you want to get that good and secure before you move on to the others. And then we're going to glue these little tabs. But right now I want to fold that bottom piece up. I didn't have it folded upward. I just folded it back. And there's a little tab right there to attach the bottom piece. So we're going to line up that edge to the tab fold there carefully. That's why we folded it, made it a valley fold, which is that inward fold to jut out that front. And then we'll add glue to that other little tab. Now I mentioned that I make changes, so I made that tab a little bit longer. Some of these side tabs are longer than what you see in the video to make it easier, give you a little bit more material to glue. I just didn't notice that the first time I did it, and sometimes that's just the case. So just little enhancements, and those will just fold down for the closure that we have, because that box opens, the cabin top opens. So now we're going to take this piece, and you see it's going to glue to the bottom there and glue to the side as well, just to show you how it goes. So I added glue to that top little tab and that bottom. So we're going to do the large tab first. You can see where it lines up, kind of lines up towards that bottom part. That top little tab kind of indents in. So you might want to dry fit it before you put it on there, just so you know where it goes. So you're not gluing it and, you know, getting to a point where you have to pull it apart. We don't want that to happen. Okay, so once we have that attached, and make sure it's good and dry before you move on to the next part. I just added glue to, you really want to add glue to that first tab there, and then the two middle tabs. I have a little bit of a bend in the middle of that front part of the cabin, but it's essentially kind of almost like a straight glue across. There's just a slight angle to it, but you can just do it kind of like straight, like there's one tab. But if I put one tab, it may not fold correctly, so anyways, it's kind of a straight thing. So just line up that edge to the tab folds, and you can see what it looks like inside. And then we'll add glue to that last tab and glue it right there. And I'm going to hold it for a little bit there. When it comes to these pieces with a lot of folds and glues and everything, you just want to make sure your glue is nice and dry. That's why I'm using art glitter glue for most of the project. I do use Scotch on some. So we're going to add that bottom tab there. And I'll show you in a minute. I'll switch it around, but we're going to glue it to the inside of the other edge. That's where it goes. So I'm anchoring that one and then gluing the rest of the tabs, just like I did on the other side. You can reach in, if you don't have vellum panels, you can reach in from the side, but if you needed to, you could reach in from the top. Again, it's your choice whether you wanted to have like a, not vellum, you don't even have to have vellum windows, they can be solid windows. But I thought it would be fun to have a open windows if you had like a little, some candy or something like that that you gave to somebody. You could also put acetate windows in there as well. So now you see that folds close. Folds to close, I should say that. I'm tongue tied. And then to open it up, you could just pull it from the front, that front. But I had that kind of pull apart a little bit. I didn't wait for it to dry, so I just applied a little bit more pressure. Then the next thing we want to do is to glue the bottom piece on. So I'm adding, I folded back all the tabs and added glue to the inside portion of the tabs. And then kind of gently fold them over. And then once you have them folded over, you can go and make sure that everything is aligned. So you want to make sure that those edges are all aligned with the tab folds. So just get them in place before you apply a lot of pressure. And you can use your hands, or if you feel like you might cause some damage to it, you can do that, or you can use a tool like the this chopstick to apply pressure around those tabs. And the reason why we're doing it like that is it makes that part stronger, and also you're not going to see those tabs because they're going to be glued. This portion's going to be glued to the actual boat. And you could glue that shut for some reason. If you want to make it nothing, just make it a model, you could have just glued those tabs to those tabs. That's up to you. So now this is just a little box that goes in the back. I think it's like a little motor that's in the back of some of the response boats that I've seen. So it's just a cube. It's not quite a cube, but it's pretty much the same size. I think it's taller, but on one side. When you glue it to the actual boat, it should be the shorter, but I actually ended up doing the taller, so it doesn't really matter. Whatever looks good to you. But you can see I'm just folding it, gluing the tabs on the side, lining up those edges to the tab folds. And then when it comes to the bottom piece, yes, I did this really fast, so if you need to, obviously portions of this you're going to have to pause the video. But this is just a basic box or cube, and then you can just apply pressure to close it up. So we'll put that aside, and now I just want to show you this. I wrote on the back of these pieces. So that's the back part of the boat. So you can see I wrote on it. This might be helpful for you to write on the pieces so you know, because you're not going to see the inside of these. So I did that with the front pieces as well. I wrote on the back of them, so I knew, so I didn't get them confused at all. Just stop for a second to wipe my hands off. Then I'll continue to fold all these score lines. So you want to get that all folded really well. Those are the side of the back of the boats. Not the boats, the boat. So the boat base is hollow. I thought about putting support in there, but it's pretty it's strong enough. I was trying to think of the word. It's strong enough without putting something inside with the sizing of it. You see there's a little tab on the side here. We're going to glue that together, these two pieces. So again, just make sure you have the correct pieces. This is part of these two long pieces. These are part of the box one, boat one, excuse me. Okay, that's enough tongue tying. And then we'll line up that other tab and glue it on the inside. So make sure you're gluing the tabs on the inside so you don't see them. And then I'm just making sure I apply good amount of pressure before I move on to the next step. Might want to let it dry for a minute or something. So there's two panels. The two panels, one's bigger than the other. The larger one is the top piece, and the smaller one's the bottom piece. So it's easier to, we're going to attach the larger piece first, because that would be harder to glue the way we're going to have to do the second one. So make sure you're on the correct side, and you can tell by this the edge of the larger piece just matched up to the tab to make sure you're doing the right tab. So that's the longest right here, this long edge. I can fit it in. You're not going to see any of this because we're going to have panels, so put it in the best you can, and you want to slide it in, and I'm matching it up, putting it in that inside tab fold in that section and getting that anchored. And once that's there, I'm just gently guiding it in, just pulling the tabs back and guiding it into place. Then I'll flip it over after we've got it all the way inside here and add glue to the other tabs. So once we add glue to all these, we'll fold them over and make sure that those edges of the panels, of that one big large panel, lines up to the inside tab fold of all those tabs. But then we can apply pressure from within. So we'll fold them all over so we can place on the table. And again, I have a little excess glue that was on the table. I saw that I placed that on, but it won't show because we do have a top and bottom panel. So this is more like a building block for the boat. The size of it, if I were to make it one piece, which I originally did, it becomes too flimsy and collapses inside. So this is just to strengthen the body of the boat base. So the top one, now because we can't glue it on the inside, we're going to have to glue it on the top. So I'll just anchor it to this tab. And if it doesn't bother you, you can fold it back like that to get an easy place for you to apply pressure. Or you could just do it with your fingertips if you feel like you can line it up. I'm not a very good liner upper by myself, so I need a little help. So I'm just lining it up, making sure it fits in that on the tab. And once it's anchored, we'll go ahead and add glue to those other tabs. Make sure the tabs are kind of pulled up a little bit because you want to make sure that you don't have to push hard to adhere them. And I am switching to Scotch quick dry. The reason is so I wanted a little bit more glue flow than my bottle. My bottle was, for some reason, I switched bottles and I'm having some difficulty with it. I'm not sure if there's a defect, but it's leaking a little bit on the side. So I do love that little bottle, but it just doesn't have enough glue flow for me. So I want to get a goodly amount without it leaking too much out of the edge. And then I'm just going to line it up. So I start from lining up these side pieces, because you might have to push it in a little bit to line up those tab folds to the edge. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's not a whole lot of perfect. There's a lot of places where things might be a little bit off, but I wouldn't worry too much if you make this project. Anybody that gets this will probably be thrilled to get it anyways, because it's a thoughtful gift. At least I hope you like it. So you can see I just applied pressure against the table. Then we'll get the other pieces. And again, these kind of weird pieces, those are the sides of the front, and this long one is the front. And you can tell that the bottom of the front has more of an angle than the back pieces did. So that's the way you can tell which pieces you have. Or you can cheat like me, and as soon as I cut them out, I wrote on them. Your PDF file, I have references in there to tell you what pieces are which. So always know we have a PDF file for your reference, so you can kind of identify the pieces and tells you a little bit more and that kind of thing. And the PDF sizes, not the PDF, the SVG sizes if you need them. Because some machines need to be resized, unfortunately. Not many. They should come in, if you import the individual pieces for Cricut, they come in at the right size. Right now we have some issues with Cricut as of this video. So you see, I folded everything on the score lines for the side pieces, and that's what that is. So you can see that I'm situated in left and right. So that's the left side, that's the right side. So you might want to just visually place them aside, and you can see that's my test box with blue and red. So this glues onto the bottom like that. on that bottom tab. So we'll do that first before we add the edges. Just line that up where the tab is. The width is the same width as the tab. Line up that edge to the tab fold, and then we'll turn it over there. And that will be the bottom. So now I'm just taking a moment to clean off. So if you ever have issues like that, I just clean off my desk really quick. So now I have the right and left pieces there. And this is not obvious how it goes, so I'm going to show you how it folds and how they'll attach. So that folds there. That's going to attach there. So start with that little tab. That long tab attaches to the fold over part. Again, I was having some difficulties with this little bottle of art glitter glue. So I'm just going to line that up. And you see I'm lining it up. The top part lines up to that top fold, and then the tab fold lines up to that top edge, right edge. And then it'll fold over like this, and it glue to that tab. That tab glues on the inside. You could do it on the outside too. I just glued it on the inside. So if you wanted to put it on the outside, it would be okay, because we will have a panel. So I'm just lining up the tab the edge, actual edge of that front flip over area to the tab fold. I'm just out of habit. I always glue on the inside when I can, so it's not visible. But as I was doing this, I recalled that we have panels, so because we have to glue these two front and back pieces together, we have to have a panel. Else it'll look funny on the top and bottom. So I'm going along, and the nice part is I can line that tab edge and then flip it over and apply pressure. But make sure it's in the right place before you start flipping it over. So you want that to be aligned with the edge. So we'll take the same steps for the other side to glue on that other side piece. Again, if you're making this, just be patient with yourself. Like I said, throughout this video, I will point out shortly where I made a few mistakes or I modified something because I didn't like how, even though the video showed exactly how to put it together, the shape didn't really matter. I just modified the design a little bit as I went through this last time of putting it together. I had put it together probably about at least 4 times in different stages. The longest part are the edges and the body. But I was trying to find the best way to do it. And then sometimes you get, I don't know if it happens to other people, but I'm sure that it does. But I'll be doing the video, and then right in the middle of the video, I will be like, I don't like how I did this. I need to change that. But it doesn't warrant me doing a whole new video. So they're minor things. So this is all the same. Just be patient with this step, and it's really not, like I said, it's not that bad. I actually have the hardest part. Hopefully we addressed. This is just more of a tedious gluing part. But I was hoping to get at least, I had promised as of this video, as of this video I'm doing this, I had promised to cover all the military branches, and I had not. So I did at least one 3D design for focus towards Coast Guard, but this could also be a police response boat. And then I didn't have anything for the Air Force at the time of this video. So I also had added a card, but not a 3D yet. And if anybody ever wondered how long, because I'm the designer and the of everything from beginning to end. I mean, sometimes this probably it was on and off for a couple weeks trying to get it. It doesn't look like that, I know that, but so you see these little tabs now we're just gluing. Kind of jump from thought to thought here. Idle chatter while I'm watching this. So you just want to make sure that those are lined up on the back there. And then we'll glue that top piece on like we did previously. This is the bottom of the boat. The bottom of the boat is smaller than the top because of the angled. But we'll do the same way. You kind of want to pull those tabs up a little bit. You don't want to have them too far in, else they won't adhere. Just be gentle because it is hollow. But hopefully I don't bore you about my whole process. But the design process sometimes takes a while. I am picky. If I were a perfectionist, I'd never get this out. I am somewhat a perfectionist, but that's what takes me so long to get it out. So at one point I had to just make a decision that it looks good at a certain point. And then those two pieces will go together. So we're going to add an ample amount of glue here. I tried a glue gun that's too bulky, but that's up to you. Whatever adhesive you want to use to put these two pieces together. But we're trying to create the full boat, and the only reason they're in two pieces is because it's stronger that way. I did it one piece, it's just too hard to glue together. So you want to get them lined up, and you can see I'm just kind of lining them up best I can. And you want to get it as tight as possible. Once you get it in place, really apply pressure on the left and right and hold it in place for a little while. I'm going a little bit faster. I had sped up this video, but I think at least a minute would be good. And I'm putting some pressure because I don't want too much of a gap. Okay, this is when I talked about changing things. Throughout the video you'll see a solid panel, this solid kind of dark gray panel. Well, I didn't like that you could see the panel or on the edge after we add the boat edges. So this is a slight modification from what you'll see in the rest of the video. So hopefully you're not confused. So we're going to add glue to this panel, and this will hide the gap in the middle. And you'll notice we're going to start from the back to attach it or to glue it on. You want to line it up to the back area and that back angled portion, because you want to have that covered because you can see that there's nothing to cover the white, but all those boat edges will cover the rest of the white pieces there. So you shouldn't have trouble to cover that's why we don't care about whether the white pieces are showing. And then I just used my color box charcoal or black ink, whatever you want, to ink the edges a little bit, especially on the back. And here's another thing. I realized I didn't put the bottom panel on until the very last, after I had the boat together. So what I would say is put that on first right now. You don't want to do it until the boat's together, because you can easily flip it over and apply pressure before you have everything on there. I just ended up putting it to the side and didn't see it. So I just want to make sure you do that step first. Now we'll add the boat edges. So you can see I have a solid panel there, but you will have white around the edges because of the new panel that I added. And you'll see that there's a tab. So you want to just dry fit them. What I'm showing you is the tab is the portion where the tab is you're going to glue to the boat base. So I'm getting all the pieces lined up so you can see how they go. Again, the shortest one will be in the middle. You can see how they go. And that'll help you if you dry fit it on your mat next to your design so you can place them in order. So this, you can see that that top, you want to line up that little bottom piece to the bottom piece, to the front edge. So you're just going to add glue to this bottom piece here. And I made it a little bit wetter so I could move it around to get it in place. It should be close to fitting perfect. One of the reasons I got rid of the edges on that panel, or dark gray panel, is so you could see the white a little bit better, because it was overlapping a little bit, so I couldn't see the edge very well when I was adjusting it. So try to adjust it on the front. If it's not perfect, that's fine. I tried to line it up best I could, and then once I got it in place, just gently applied pressure to get it to adhere. You just don't want it to go all wonky. So this is one of those things where if you don't get that first piece on right or straight, the rest won't go on correctly. So just make sure that's good and dry. And then again, you have them in order on the left hand side. So you see how they're going to go like that. But we're going to add these railings. So I don't show it here, but there's another piece to the railing that you can structurally make it a little bit stronger. And there'll be a little cut line for you to line up that bottom edge. So it's going to go like that, but you don't want to do it flush. There's a little space. So you can go ahead and you don't see it here, but you just want it to be glued like that, if you can see it. Just a little bit further away, but there's a cut line to help you guide it. So you can kind of straighten up the actual railing in the front. And the curved area will be towards the back of the boat, and the front, the straight portion of the railing is towards the front of the boat. So I'm just adding glue here, and I had to pull it off at one point, so that's kind of what you're seeing. But that's the right side. So I'm just kind of I'm kind of leaving a little bit of the tab exposed, as you can kind of see right there. Then I kind of wanted it to go straight, but I just don't want it to be flush, because when it's flush, you really can't get it doesn't show the railing as well. So we'll do the same thing. So we're just prepping those two pieces. So I also made the railing double-sided, or another panel, so you can put on the other side. So if you had textured paper like I do, both sides were textured. I didn't do that for the back railing, because I don't think it's as noticeable, but for this one, if you're looking at different angles, you might be able to see it. But it's optional, and it makes it stronger so it doesn't get all flimsy, because I noticed it was a little flimsy. So that's, again, something I added after I did this. So now we're going to glue the left hand side pieces, let's call it the port side pieces, left. So I'm going to add a liberal amount of glue. You want to be careful, don't go towards the edge of the box more than the middle, because you don't want that glue to get on anything, and don't stick your piece down like that, that's for sure. I almost did it with the glue part, but we're going to line it up the left edge. So what we're trying to do is, if you look, fortunately I didn't get the glue much of anywhere else, but I need to put glue on the end. I forgot to do that on the front end. So I'm flipping it over, and I want to line up that bottom left edge to as close to the edge of the box as I can, and also line it up on the front. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to come into view again. I just went out of camera view, the first one. And I wouldn't worry too much about that. You can always rearrange that later. Just try not to squish it. But I'm just applying pressure. And again, I used a glue gun as well, just to see if that would work. It's just too bulky. It adds too much bulk with the glue. So it's up to you what you want to use. So we'll just continue to glue on the left side. Just make sure you have your pieces lined up so you know which one's left and right. The tab will always be on the bottom, and be careful with that. I keep on forgetting to put glue at the ends. But you want to be careful because you don't want the glue to show in the middle. So I always start from the edge and going in. So you can line that up. And I'm just making sure it's lined up as possible with the end of the other one, but also it kind of that bottom edge is lined up. The bottom fold edge of that piece is lined up as close as you can to the edge of the boat base. Again, not having that gray panel towards the edge will help a little bit more than what you see here. Same steps, it just looks slightly different to you because the panel's different. And then that last one. So make sure you're always adding glue on the portion that has the tab. So you can tell, if you put the tab on the bottom, you can tell which one's the left and right pretty much, except for that last piece. They're pretty much the same either way, but those two front edge, I mean not the very front, but the two front side edges pieces, they only go one way. So you want to make sure you get them on the correct side in the correct order. Just make sure that the longest one's on the back, the shortest one's in the middle, and then the one in between that is in the front. Again, I just recommend putting them to the side in order. I had mixed mine up there after I had put the railing on. And then I'll just have you watch me put the other side together, and I won't bore you with my voice. I'll be back shortly. Now we're coming towards the home stretch. So next we'll just add those side tab panels to hide that gap of putting the two pieces of the boat together. So we want to curl them first, and I'm going to just show you how to put on one of them, and the other one is the same. So what I would suggest is going from the back to the front. So you can either put glue on the actual boat, and you can see how it lines up. And you can kind of line it up to go a little bit towards the top. But I added glue to the bottom piece, but you could do it on the boat, only half of it. And then I'm going to flip it up and add the rest of the glue on the actual boat. But you could put all the glue on the boat as well, on the side of the boat. Just be careful with where you place it so you don't get it on the red piece or the boat edges, whatever color it is. And then I'm just going to slowly, once it's lined up on the back, it should line up fine on the front. And then just going to apply pressure going from the back to the front slowly towards that tip. And that'll clean up the side of the boat. So you no longer see that gap. You can see my little piece from earlier got into the thing there. You got to get rid of my extra pieces. So now we're going to do this back railing portion. So you can see I folded it. So you want to fold it carefully because it's kind of flimsy, not flimsy, but you could fold it in the wrong place. Then we're just sliding this tab under that long piece there. You don't want to do it on the top because you don't want the tab to show, because that'll be visible. So you just want to slide it under. And just apply a goodly amount of pressure just to get it nice and secure. Then we're just going to place it eventually right there. So you can kind of place it to see where you want to put things. This really is the short side up for that box, but I put the tall side. That was just me gluing it wrong, but it really doesn't matter a whole lot. And then putting that there. So I'm just dry fitting it to see where I want everything before I do the final gluing. So now I'm going to add glue to the pieces and place it in the actual boat. So when you glue this piece, just make sure your glue is not really close to the edge. You want to put a goodly amount without it obviously leaking through your paper. That's why I was using Scotch Quick Dry there. And I'm just centering it. You can kind of see where I'm putting it. That's why I dry fit it, so you can kind of get an idea of where you want it. There's no rules, because you know, maybe you don't want the back part on. I don't know. And that closes like that. And again, you could have glued that portion close. But now I'm just applying some gentle pressure until it's secure. Fortunately, right in the middle of the boat, it's the strongest because you have those two pieces coming together. Then just adding glue to these little bottom edges of this back railing. And I had to turn it so it was facing towards me. It's not as much beneficial to the camera as me getting it on straight. And once I get it into place where I want it, it looks closer to the cabin than it actually is. Just apply pressure against those edges. And then we'll just add that box. So it's really, there's only actually two more things. The box and then the two little life preservers or lifesaver things to the back on the side of the railings. You could put the life preservers anywhere you want. Oops, so there we go. See, that's when you like make sure you know where you're gonna place it. But fortunately, I didn't get excess glue anywhere. So I didn't show putting on the actual lifesavers or life preservers. So this is what it essentially looks like when it's done. And here it is with the life preservers. This was a challenging project. I'm glad I did it. I've been wanting to do a Coast Guard or another boat design. If you do like it, I would appreciate a like below. But there you go. You could use it as for a gift, to add a gift into that cabin, or add vellum windows and add a tea light. I thank you so much for watching and supporting us. Thank you.